Welcome to FiddleHed Fiddle Lesson. Good people, we are now going to play some full range scales based on the simple scales you've already learned. So we'll be taking like a 1-octave scale, but keep going. And we're going to do that in several keys. So this will help you with improvisation because it'll give you more notes to work with, but it'll also just help your technique and your hearing of music, I think. So let's start with the G major scale. Play a 1-octave, the lower octave of the G major. Cool. Now play the upper octave. Okay, so to play all the notes in first position, we'll just need to add E3, which is an A note, and E4, which is a B. So those notes are still in the scale. They're like little leftovers for the beginning of the next version of the scale. All right, but we're only going to stay in first position. Why? Well, because most fiddle music just stays in first position. Some bluegrass players kind of go up to third with different sliding, and they'll do fancy things up in third. Classical players do all the time, but since we're mostly in first position, this kind of scale is really useful. Okay, so I'm now just going to play the entire full range, the G major scale, with a finger diagram. Excellent. Now take a moment to pause and practice that with a G drone track. Cool. Some tunes I suggest working with are just tunes in G, maybe like Kesh Jig or The Girl I Left Behind Me. Anything in G, you could basically practice this scale, then do a tune in G and go back to the scale. And that way, when you kind of mix scales in with tunes, it makes the scales way more fun and more interesting, and then you'll start to hear the scale in the tune. So I always encourage you to do that anytime you learn a tune, play its scale. So it'll just really get you deeper into the music. All right, now let's do this process on some of the other scales that you've learned for fiddling. D major, the basic octave was. So we'll add on the G string, open 1, 2, high 3, which is a C sharp. And on the E string we'll add open 1, low 2, 3, 4. Okay? So now we're going to play the entire full range scale, full range D major scale for you. Some suggested tunes you can play with that would be Arkansas Traveler, Tobin's Jig, Swallowtail Jig, Old Joe Clark, all tunes that are in the key of D. All right, let's move on to the key of A. The lower octave was starting G1. The upper octave, that's the more beginner octave, and then the note we can add on top would be a B, E4, and the note on the bottom would be G low 1, which is a G sharp, or A flat, but in the context of the A major scale we would call it G sharp. All right, so now I'm just going to play the entire full range A scale. So some tunes to do with that. Sally Gooden, Cotton Eye Joe, any tune in A. Cool. Let's move on to the F major scale. Basic version, 1 octave, starts D low 2. Cool. So we can add on the D string open and 1. And on the G string we can add open 1, low 2, 3. So far we have added, if we take the notes below the basic scale, then the basic. And then on top we can add E low 2, 3, 4. That's low 4, sorry. Okay, so the entire full range for the F scale, I'm gonna do that slowly. Okay, 2 more to go. B flat. For the lower octave starts G low 2. I should have said this earlier, but if any of these scales are unfamiliar, look on FiddleHed.com for lessons particular to, so like the B flat. If you haven't studied this yet, it's probably better to study that before doing this lesson. So anyhow, the lower octave. The upper octave starts A low 1. Alright, and we put them together. And now to get the full range, we just need to add G1 and open. Okay, now I'll do the full range B flat major scale. Suggested tunes for this would be Done Gone, Oh Susanna in B flat, or Carrie Polka in B flat. Alright, last scale, C major, a bit more used than F and B flat, but I present it last because you're going to need to kind of extend your 4th finger and it's a little bit more advanced. Alright, so the first octave would be start G3. Alright. Then the next octave would start A low 2. And here's where we're going to do that extension. We're going to reach the 4th a little bit higher to a high C. It's kind of hard, but it's in 99.9% of fiddle tunes don't use this, but why not learn it for that 0.1%? All right. So, all right. So now all we need to add to that is notes below this G3, which is the C. We need to add open 1, 2 on G. So now I'm going to play the full range of the C major scale. And some suggested tunes you could do with this would be Kesh Jig in C major, all right, which would start on G3. All right, so that's it. As usual, I'll just close by saying that, I've given you a lot here. I recommend doing one scale this way, really getting deep into it. Maybe stay with it a week, students tend to want to do a bigger variety of things and not focus as much. So I would always encourage you to go as deep as you can with a particular thing. So stay with one scale, stay with maybe the G major, full range, do tunes, then go back to the scale, add variations to the scale, add rhythms, add slur patterns, add melodic variations, all things I got lessons on to keep the scales interesting. Anyway, these scales are kind of like old friends that we keep visiting with and going on new journeys with, at the risk of sounding like a hippie. All right, it's been fun. I'll see you soon. And please sign up for the FiddleHed newsletter.
Thanks for watching the video.
Excellent.